Hi guys and girls, Rose Burnett here, Mind, Body, Soul Balance Coach, and this is your daily inspiration. And what we're covering off today has been asked by one of our YouTube members, and I did promise to do a shout out for those questions that got raised and the ones that got selected to be answered in the daily inspiration. And before we get started, if you've got a question you'd most like answered, and it's not to do with tarot predictions, right? You need a personal reading for that. Daily inspiration is all about personal development, mind, body, soul, balance, empowerment, all those kinds of things. So if you do have a burning question you want answered, pop it down below. All right, so doing a shout out to Kylie Bennett. So Kylie raised the question, how do I feel more self-confident in a relationship? Kylie said that she feels good on her own, but when I have been in a relationship or get into a relationship, I feel insecure about myself. Any advice? Oh, I've got to say, it's a brilliant question. Often what happens, right, is on your own, you do feel a lot more secure because you don't have any pressure of judgment, criticism, ridicule, all that kind of stuff from anyone else, right? So whether it's your goals and your dreams that you're working on, you might have a lifestyle that's not like other people. It can be about your health, your well-being, your body shape. It could be your state of your finances, where you're living. It could be even your relationship history, or the fact you've got children. All of those kinds of things you're pretty comfortable with, confident with within self, because you don't normally, ideally, don't criticize yourself, yeah. But you could also have areas, we all have weaknesses and strengths, right? None of us have got it all together. And if you're somebody sitting there telling me you've got it all together, right, probably wouldn't be watching this video right now. We all have areas of our life where we excel at, right? And then we have areas in our life that could be our bugbear. They could be things that we constantly feel insecure about, even though we might feel totally confident in other areas, right? And what happens is that when you go into a new relationship, it's just suddenly where you've gone from totally confident to bringing up all these insecurities about whether or not you're going to be judged for them or criticised for them, accepted or rejected for them, right? Particularly in those early stages of dating and getting to know someone. Dare I say it's quite natural, but it does come back to your own sense of self-worth and self-love. And I think I've got some notes here and I am going to refer to them because it was such a great question, Kylie. I spent quite a lot of time pondering on it. And, you know, it might also be, a lot of what also comes into play is that people go into relationships with a bit of a list of what they want in their partner, right? What's their ideal partner? Some of those things can be realistic or unrealistic, yeah. And you're constantly in those early stages sizing people up, which is a great level of discernment, right, in terms of whether or not that person, or you for them for you, is going to be right for you. So there is that exploration as well as sort of questioning people in certain areas of your life, because you might have a deal breaker and they might have a deal breaker, right, in terms of what they want in a love partner. So, you know, that also comes into play. And I guess let's talk about shadow side first, right? So shadow side of self are those things that are a weakness usually, or it can just be part of ourselves that we haven't yet quite healed or that we need to bring more balance into, yeah. It can be things that we ignore about ourselves until we get into a relationship and suddenly we feel like they might be revealed or highlighted by another person. And I think in that instance, what's super important to the other person, for example, if it's a concern for them, like let's give some examples. It might be your career, your job, your finances. You know, maybe they're not working quite so well for you, but you're working on them. It may be something that's super important to somebody else, that they meet somebody that's financially stable, right? You might meet somebody that's quite well off and you're not quite well off. Well, there's quite a disparity there, right? In those instances, is materialism super important to them? Do they want somebody that's on the same level for them? Often they're not going to kind of meet that. That would be kind of rare, right? But most people can cover their own expenses and all that kind of stuff, yeah, and look after themselves. But it can bring some insecurities up. It might also be, you know, it might be health and wellness. You might have put on a few pounds. Is somebody else going to be worried about that if they're right into health and fitness? All kind of little things can come up. You know, you might have children from a previous relationship and they might not have any. Are they going to accept your children? Is it going to be a bone of contention? Do they want children? You don't want children, vice versa. All those kind of things. So it can bring up the shadow side of stuff. We can be hypersensitive to those areas that we're insecure about. You can alleviate some of that with the other person in terms of discussing it truthfully and honestly. But I think there's also a bit of a precursor in that. When you're trying to just get to know somebody, I don't think you really should be cross-examined in the first instance, right? You've got to kind of be wary of that kind of behaviour. I think people kind of can get into that mentality because of the whole fastness of the dating scene these days, right? You don't have to reveal stuff about yourself that you're not comfortable revealing too early on, right? You kind of want to get to know someone first. But it may be something that if it is a deal breaker for them, and whether it's, and you really like that person, is there a middle ground? Is there a compromise? Mostly just people want to know that you're working on it to improve that area of your life, yeah? And I guess there's also the internal aspect of how do you cope with your own feelings, your insecurities, your vulnerabilities, and it's stirring up. It's stirring up, and often it stirs us up right now, like our sacral chakra, yeah, where we hold all of our emotions. It can stir us up in terms of stress and worry, yeah. It's also kind of an important point to think about, that it can highlight the differences between two people. So whilst it may bring stuff up for you, you've also got to look at it and go, is this somebody I really want to be with? Are they going to accept me just as I am? Can I be myself in this relationship? But you've also got to be mindful that it's not your insecurities coming up. They constantly get triggered in relationships about stuff you need to heal around your own sense of self-worth and self-love. Because you might be worrying about stuff that they don't give a toss about, right? You've never mentioned it, but you've just internally got this fear that you're going to be rejected or not accepted for it, right? That can be your insecurities and emotions you need to own and strengthen and boost yourself up more. And I think in terms of highlighting the differences, and this is a part of discernment going into relationships for both people, right? It can highlight differences in values. I can, even from my own background and experience, I'll share one with you, right? And it's one of the things I kind of look for in a relationship now, because I've been in a relationship where, in terms of finances, somebody was kind of really tight with their money. Yeah, I'm somebody who's really generous. And to the point where everything was 50-50 straight down the line to the last dollar or whatever, yeah. Well, that drove me a little crazy. It's like, where's the flexibility in that? And I would often give a lot more, and you can give a lot more in all sorts of different areas, right? And it's about that give and take. Would I want somebody that was kind of like that in another relationship? No, I wouldn't, right? So if somebody comes across as being really, in terms of very ungenerous, in terms of their own resources versus, there's got to be that equality, but not to the point where it's a marked difference, yeah, if that makes sense. If it's something that doesn't really gel with you, or you've got somebody that's super interested in how much is in your bank account or how many assets you've got in the first 5 minutes, well, what are you looking for? Like, hello, how about the person? Do you know what I mean? That's a bit of a red flag for me, and I know even for my girlfriends, sorry guys if you're out there, if you're interrogating women about what their financial status is before they've even got to know you, particularly on a first date, it's really off-putting, right? As it means that person's totally fixated on money and materialism, yeah. That's just one example. In terms of, the insecurities coming up, the way in which you look at each other in terms of differences, it can show also what's important to the other person, what's important to you. I kind of find it super interesting in terms of this area about whether or not somebody's got the same drive and motivation and goals that you have, the same passion for life to go after it, yeah. Their temperament, your temperament, do those temperaments match? It comes all across in terms of, compatibility. There's in terms of, the time factor together. Does somebody want to invest in this relationship or not invest in it? Both ways in terms of their time and their effort. And I think what often comes up with this is, there's some core areas that get looked at. It can be career, your finances, can be your friendships as well. Do they accept your friends? Or do you accept their friends? Definitely children can be a big stickler in relationships. Your fitness, your health, your body, your attractiveness. That's a big one for most people, right? But you can have all sorts of insecurities about your body. You might be worrying about stuff you don't need to be worrying about. and interest and all that kind of stuff. And I think mostly at the basis of the insecurities is judgment, self-criticism or criticism by others, rejection, non-acceptance, and I think the dynamics of it is that if it's somebody that you're not that interested, you don't really care that much, If it's someone you're super interested in, then it can bring up fear, doubt, worry, insecurities about self, because you might seriously want to be in that relationship. And I think you've got to be really wary of trying to impress somebody else. If you're trying to impress somebody else rather than just be yourself, what's coming up, because often there's a state of lack or imbalance there somewhere. Be mindful it's not the other person triggering that too in terms of their own behaviour. And I think sometimes, we talked about weaknesses and strengths, and somebody can be really excelling really well in an area of their life, which is a weak point for us. So there's a marked difference that's getting highlighted when you go into a relationship. They've got it all figured out in that area and you haven't. That's bound to pull up insecurities. What can you do in that instance? You can start working and strengthening that area. It's always going to make you feel better. Take action towards it. But I think also be mindful that they're going to have weaknesses in all aspects of their life. They wouldn't be single if they didn't have a weakness, right? None of us would be single if we didn't have a weakness. It means we haven't figured it all out yet, or we just haven't met the right person, or we're still trying to gel together, There is no roadmap for this kind of stuff, right? You just do your best. You do your best. You learn along the way, hopefully. I think from a mind, body, soul balance coach, the more you can stand in your wholeness and accept yourself as you are and go, hey, this is me. If you don't like it, well, don't ever start changing yourself with someone else. You can strengthen areas that are weaknesses, absolutely. But if you try to change a whole lot about yourself just to get into a relationship, it's a pathway that is going to lead you down to a place where you're just going to have much lower self-esteem at the end of that, because you've pretty much given all parts of yourself away, to please someone else. That comes from a lack of self-worth and self-love. It can also be triggered by other sorts of issues coming up for someone else that you're reacting and responding to. I think a good thing to ask yourself is, if you've got a lot of insecurities coming up, have a look at the state of your life in terms of, ask yourself the question, am I ready to get into a relationship? Are there things going on in my life that I need to sort out before I get into a relationship? Same for them. There's lots of people that put themselves out there, they're not ready for a relationship, haven't healed from the past. Their financial situation might be a complete mess. They might not have enough stability in their life for them to be looking for a relationship. Do you know what I mean? It's not to say that you have to have it done all across the board, but they can be biggies, if their life's not stable. And what happens when those insecurities come up? So you can get really protective, and you can shut down in terms of expressing stuff emotionally with that person to protect yourself, to protect that weakness that you perceive as a weakness or an insecurity. You can overanalyze things, run around in your head. Is this person going to reject me, accept me for this? Is this a big issue? Oh, you can go on and on and on. Yeah, you can. Worry, anxiety. It could be stuff that they don't give a toss about. Yeah, but you're worried about it. You don't act openly or naturally be yourself in their company. You can withdraw. You can push them away to protect yourself, so things don't get revealed about yourself. You can question and doubt your own lovability, and you can isolate yourself from even getting into relationships, So how do you overcome it? Okay. Well, I think one of the really good questions to ask is this something that's really important to the other person? I think you'll know if they kind of mention it a couple of times, whether or not you ignore it or answer their questions, their probing questions about something that is bothering you, that you're not feeling quite secure about in yourself. If somebody asks you a couple of times about something, it's probably something that's important to them, They're often testing for compatibility, testing as to whether or not you're the right match for them. And you do the same thing too. And I think you really need to get to the bottom of whether or not it's actually a big deal for someone, or is it something you can compromise on? Yeah. Because you all bring different strengths to a relationship. There might be some part of your life that you're amazing in that they suck at. Yeah. But when you bring those two things together, it kind of outweighs possibly things that they're worrying about. Do you know what I mean? And vice versa. You can simply admit, hey, I don't have it all together in that aspect of my life, but I'm working on it, and these are my plans. And that will either tell you whether or not they're going to go, yeah, not for me, or do you know what I mean? And you kind of want to know that up front rather than spend a whole lot of time and investment into something that's going to be a deal breaker for the other person. And you know, if it is, were they meant for you? Do you know what I mean? And you'll often come across people where there'll be stuff that comes up about them that you go, no, I can't, that's not what I'm looking for. It goes both ways, right? It goes both ways. I mean, the other option is you can just hide it and be deceptive about it. It's still going to come up eventually, yeah? Probably in a lot worse way. So you can be open about it. You can be honest about it. You can be vulnerable about it, yeah, and discuss it. And you can start working on it if you need to, but it's not about changing your core self, about who you are. It then gives that person the opportunity, and this is what you want to make sure that you do, is give the other person the opportunity to make their minds up for themselves as to whether or not they're okay with that in a relationship, because you really kind of want to know that, yeah? And I think also what comes up in these instances is the differences between people in terms of values, right? So there could be something that they've got a value on and a higher priority than what you do, because your values are different. And that's going to happen any relationship you're in, because we're not the same, yeah? We'll certainly have compatibilities. If you're highly compatible with someone, you will have similar values around a lot of things. Not everything, yeah? So it will highlight that. And, you know, we've covered most of them. It can be your spirituality, it can be financial matters, it can be your, you know, financial matters, assets, it can be the way in which you approach health and well-being, the way they approach it, including fitness and diet, interests. Energy levels can be quite different. If you're quiet and they're exuberant, do those two things match, right? Do they want to go and party and you want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix? Can those two of those things meet in the middle? Physicality, chemistry, attraction, super important. I've got to say, don't ever compromise on that, because you just, longevity, it doesn't work out, right? But there's always going to be that case where you're going to meet some of them, but you're never going to meet all of them. You're never going to meet all of them. What can I say to you? Stand in your vulnerability when you need to. Yeah, just be open and honest about your life. You don't need to do it in the first 5 minutes. No. I don't think anybody needs to be cross-examined or have a whole lot of stuff have to be revealed about your life when you first met someone, because you don't know if they're going to be in your life for 5 minutes. It might just be the date, right? Well, hello. I think it's more about getting to know someone over time. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to accept and allow those feelings to come up. Sometimes if it comes up for you regularly in every relationship, there's something underlying that, yeah. You need to get to the bottom of it. Often it's things that you've grown up with that have created insecurities and a lack of self-confidence and self-love within you that you need to strengthen and work on. That's not about changing yourself, right? That's about just coming into a place of more love, knowing that you're okay just as you are. Asking yourself, is this something new coming up for me, or is it something I always tackle, always comes up for me as an insecurity? Yeah. The way to work around insecurities is to take action. When you take action towards something, if it's strengthening something, if it's just, you know, in terms of just even talking about it, you're going to feel better all pretty much straight away, yeah, because you step into your empowerment. So just remember that. All right, if you've got any suggestions about how you handle this issue, pop them down below. Any questions you want answered in the next daily inspiration. Kylie, I hope this helped. Just remember, you are just beautiful and awesome as you are. You deserve a great love. You all do. Now, I am going to say to you that I have just, if you're interested, you're obviously probably on my channel, not only watching this, but you watch my tarot readings as well. We've just got the membership to my channel up and running. What does that mean? You'll see a join button here as well as a subscribe button. If you want to get all of my free content, hit the subscribe button so you get notified of it. If you want to get the bonus stuff that's coming out, which I've started this week, in terms of there's 2 bonus tarot readings you get a month that nobody else is going to get unless you're a member. And I'll also be doing some live Q&A sessions just for members as well. I might add to that list, but that's what we got up for the moment. I'll put a link here onto the video that just explains how all that works so you know more about it. So if you're interested in that, check that video out, see if it's for you. Hit the join button and yeah, you'll get a lot of bonus member content, exclusive, that you won't get anywhere else on my channel. Nobody else can see it, yeah. And also just hit the subscribe button if you haven't already joined my channel in terms of a free subscriber, so you know when the next videos come out. For now, much love, much light. Namaste.